Hi, this is Sue for My Journey with Parkinson's. It's a Saturday evening, about 9:43, and my voice has suddenly gone all croaky, so please excuse. So the title of this particular podcast is This Week, Next Week, Sometime, Never. Now, I don't know why, but I always have difficulty when it comes to time. Reading time, having the right time, being in the right place at the right time on the right day. Now, once when I was at university and I was studying to be a social worker, this thing that I'm just about to talk to you about happened. Now, I often say that I am living proof that you don't have to be particularly intelligent to have a degree, because I have done the silliest things in my life, I tell you. So anyway, at the campus where I went to university, there was a large lecture hall which contained probably at least 400 students. And you can imagine when some are filing out and some are filing in, that several hundred students would make a little bit of noise and commotion. And there's a lot of coming and going and shifting around and sort of getting yourself down to the end of the row where you can sit down and just getting yourself generally organised for the particular lecture that you are waiting to hear and be part of. So this particular day, I went to a lecture. I got there a bit early, so I thought, I'll go and find a good spot and I'll sit down and I'll wait for the others to join. So I sat there, and there was a girl called Megan in my class who was always, like me, very prompt and always there on time, could be relied upon. So I'm sitting there, I can see all these people coming in, and I'm thinking, where's Megan? Megan should be here by now. That's weird, that's not like her not to be here on time. And then I thought, actually, I don't actually recognise any of these faces. And then it dawned on me. I looked at my timetable and I looked at the clock, and my lecture wasn't till 11 o'clock. I was in the right lecture hall, but an hour early. So didn't I feel like a twit? I certainly did. I certainly did feel like a twit. But I had to make a quick decision as to whether I would stay trapped in that environment in which I ultimately did not belong, because I can't remember what the lecture was for, but it was nothing to do with social work. Or I could scurry out and not look anybody in the eye and just get out of there as quickly as possible. So I chose the latter, and I made haste towards the exit and came back again at the actual appointed time. And actually, another story, I was always amazed at students who could fall asleep so quickly. And they just happened to be Asian students that I had noticed had a propensity for doing this in the library and on buses. I remember seeing a young Asian girl get onto the bus when I was catching a bus home. And she got onto the bus, the same place as I did, and immediately fell asleep. And then, just before her stop was reached, she woke up, pulled the cord, and off she went. And I always admired her skill for doing that. Me, I would have just stayed on that bus, and God knows where I would have ended up. But no, she had got it home to a fine art. Fall asleep as soon as you seat, wake up just when you need to pull the cord, and out she went. So yeah, I digress a little bit, but time is a bit of a thing for me. With my daughter particularly, and also my husband. My daughter and my husband predominantly are the ones that have fallen victim to my confusion. Now, I never know who it is that has made the wrong choices or confused themselves, but normally I didn't communicate clearly enough. The result is that I am deemed to have done something wrong, and that when something was going to occur. So as an example, when my daughter's daughters were younger, I would ring my daughter up and say, hey, we haven't had the girls for a bit. Thought we'd have them for the weekend. How are you fixed for next weekend? So she'd go, oh yeah, next weekend would be great. So I'll get all organised to go and pick the girls up next weekend. And I would ring her on the Friday and say, I'm going to pick the girls up tomorrow. And she goes, I thought you said it was next weekend. And I said, I did, yeah, tomorrow, Saturday. She said, I thought next weekend, not this weekend, this Saturday, but next Saturday. I said, no, but when I said it at the beginning of the week, next Saturday was this Saturday. And so we got in so many muddles so many times over which was which. Which was this week, which was next week, which was this Saturday, which was next Saturday. And it became a bit of a problem. So we then had to resort to, right, I want to have the kids on the 21st of whatever and at whatever time. And so if we had the specific day and time, we were okay and we can figure it out. I've had this exact same situation happen with my husband. He'll say, let's go out to dinner next Saturday. And I think, oh, good, a couple of days' time we're going out for dinner. And I say, oh, it would be great to go to dinner on Saturday. And he goes, no, I said next Saturday, not this Saturday. So here's me getting my hopes up again and getting it wrong. So there was a particularly awkward situation arise tonight. Now, one of my grandchildren has just had her 13th birthday, and because it was in the week, she hasn't had any kind of celebration with family yet. So my daughter had said she wanted us all to go to Denny's. This was my granddaughter's wish. Wanted us all to go to Denny's and have dinner together. And that was to be on Saturday at 6 o'clock. Now, I got myself all dressed today. Showered, dressed, makeup, looking nice. Drove all the way across town to where Denny's is situated and got out of my car, went in, asked if there was a table held in the name of my daughter, and they looked at me blankly and said no. But then I thought, oh, maybe it's just one of those places where you don't book a table. So that was all right. So I said, I'll just sit over here and I'll just wait for them. So I sat there and I waited for them, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and then about 20 minutes after the appointed time, I rang my daughter. And I said, are you all right? Are you on the way? And she goes, on the way to where? And I said, to Denny's. We're having Layla's dinner tonight, aren't we? And she goes, no, that's next week. And she sounded a little bit exasperated, and I can't blame her. And she said, I even sent you an email. I told you about 3 different times what the day and time was. But I genuinely thought it was this weekend and tonight. And I got it wrong. And I got it wrong. And she did sound a bit exasperated. And I can't say that I blame her. She's done her best to try and give me the right message. So I said to her, I'm so sorry, it's all my fault, I've got it wrong. Could you send me a text or something with the right date, the actual date, the day and the time and where? So it's all down there in a text. So she said she'd do that. So she very kindly sent me a text with all the information that I need so that I can put it on the calendar and know that I've got the right day and time. So that's really helpful. But when I got to the car, I actually did feel a bit like crying because it just seemed to be yet another indicator that things are going downhill a little bit. God, I can't stand this croaky throat. It's awful. So yeah, it's just really got to me that things are not going so well in some areas. It's hard. It's hard when you think your brain isn't behaving itself. When I couldn't latch on to the right piece of information and be at the right place at the right time. I thought about my mum, who also had Parkinson's. Now, my history with mum has not been great. We were just so different, such different people, that we just didn't understand each other, and so we never really fully got along. It's not that we were adversarial or anything, we didn't hate each other, but we just, 4 days in each other's company, we drove each other crazy. We're just too different. We just couldn't kind of live under the same roof past when I was, say, 16 years of age when I left home. And when she got Parkinson's, and I would tell her things, and she would not remember them, and I'd say, Mum, why don't you write them down? You know, you're always forgetting things. Why don't you write them down? And I would get exasperated with her, and I would be impatient with her, and I would not understand why she couldn't grasp onto simple concepts and simple messages and get them right. There's a lot of things she struggled with, and I got exasperated because I obviously thought that she should have been able to do these things or understand these things, which she obviously couldn't. And so now that I'm in her shoes, as it were, and I hear my daughter's exasperation, it's like deja vu for Sue. My daughter's sigh echoed my own all those years ago when Mum used to do the same sort of thing. And I can just imagine Lauren putting down the phone, and she was at her girlfriend's place and saying to her friend, I think losing it. And maybe she's not wrong. Maybe I am. And it's not a nice feeling, I can tell you. So I am going to have to rely more on writing things down and making sure that I've got the right day and time so that I don't get into this situation again. And I don't want to frustrate and annoy my daughter or anybody else. And when I rang my husband, rang to tell him I was coming home early and why, you could hear the puzzlement in his tone, and I said to him, please don't give me a hard time. I think I'm about to cry. Because it was a bit of a slap in the face. It really was. But onwards and upwards, no harm was done. And it's just us that knows that things went a bit awry. We will get it right next week, and we will have my grandchild's birthday at Denny's as planned on the date that it was going to be all along. So yeah, this week, next week, sometime never. Maybe I'll never completely get this week, next week right and in line with everybody else. I am just me. And my concept of time and what's this next or current, I don't know. It just gets confusing. So this has been Sue for my journey with Parkinson's. Kia kaha. Be brave, be strong, be you.